Hello friends, this is Mike Williams of Imagine Hypnotics. With this presentation, I will step you through the basics of hypnosis, how it works, and how hypnosis can help you. I am a certified master hypnotherapist and hypnosis instructor. I am certified by both the International Association of Counselors and Therapists and the National Guild of Hypnotists. I have been a dedicated practitioner since 2010, and my practice serves the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area. This presentation is an introduction to hypnosis. I will explain how it works. We will discuss the benefits of hypnosis, along with illustrating how hypnosis resolves conflicts. I will describe a typical session, and then we'll talk about client expectations. As we make our way through the presentation, it's important to understand the terminology. Hypnosis is also referred to as trance or trance state. The conscious mind is often referred to as wakefulness or your waking state, and inner mind, which I use very often during this presentation, is referring to your subconscious or unconscious mind. The diagram below depicts the differences between the conscious mind and the inner mind regarding processes and functions performed on our behalf. For example, the conscious mind is responsible for our planning processes, willpower, critical thinking, short-term memory, and decision-making, whereas the inner mind, or the unconscious or subconscious mind, handles our habits and patterns, automatic body functions, cellular memory, creativity, emotions, protection, and long-term memory. Now, before we move any further into the presentation, it's important to understand what hypnosis is and what hypnosis is not. Hypnosis or hypnotherapy is an alternative approach to well-being, focusing on the mind, body, and spirit aspects of wellness. Hypnosis is a profound state of relaxation, focused mind, meaning concentration, and heightened sensory awareness. It is a receptive state characterized by openness to suggestibility, relaxation, and imagination. Hypnosis is not a replacement for medical care, and hypnosis is not mind control. Now, what does hypnosis help with? Hypnosis can address a broad spectrum of client wellness goals, such as managing stress, anxiousness, grief, anger, fears, and pain. Hypnosis can also enhance a wide array of personal development objectives like self-confidence and self-esteem. It can strengthen performance, discipline, and motivation in areas such as school study habits, career building, and athletic focus. It's a great tool to quit smoking and manage weight. And with hypnosis, clients can also experience spiritual exploration with sessions such as past life regression. It's important to understand that hypnosis is a natural state of consciousness. It is not magical or mystical. A hypnotic state simply means your brain waves have slowed down, and there are 4 primary brain waves. Beta is your conscious or waking state, and that operates between 30 and 40 hertz. Next is alpha, which represents a light trance state. Alpha waves result in relaxation, visualization, and creativity, and operate between 7 and 12 hertz. Next is theta, which is the desired brainwave state for hypnosis. This allows for hypnotic regression, deep meditation. It's where your intuition resides. It's where you access your long-term memory, and it is the required state of consciousness for spiritual exploration. The 4th brainwave state is delta, which operates between 0 and 4 hertz, and delta is associated with sleep. Now, we all go into hypnosis at least twice a day. One of those times is right before you nod off to sleep, that in-between state, and then when you first awaken in the morning, when you feel a little groggy. Other times when you're in a hypnotic state or trance state is when you're daydreaming, or when you're driving your car on the highway and you're deep in thought, and you really don't remember driving the last 2 miles. That's referred to as highway hypnosis. Other times when you're in a trance state or a hypnotic state is when you're watching a movie or reading a book. These are alpha states. So you can see that you page in and out of hypnosis or trance each and every day, which takes us back to the first bullet on the chart, that hypnosis is a natural state of consciousness. Now that we have a basic understanding of brain waves, it is important to restate the desired trance depth for hypnosis is theta. This does not mean meaningful session work cannot take place in the lighter trance state of alpha, but the rule of thumb is the deeper the client is in hypnosis, the better. This is because deeper trance levels significantly reduce the possibility of conscious mind interference. In theta, it's as if we are in a waking dream where vivid imagery flashes before the mind's eye, and we are receptive to information beyond our normal conscious awareness. Theta has also been identified as the gateway to learning and memory. Theta state increases creativity, enhances learning, reduces stress, and awakens intuition and other extrasensory perception skills. Now, under hypnosis, the mind utilizes right brain functions. Your propensity for logic, being analytical and rational, is a function of the left side of your brain, whereas the right side of your brain is where your imagination and creativity reside. The right side loves imagery and metaphors. During a hypnosis session, the right brain is in the driver's seat, much like when you dream at night. And because the right side of your brain is creative, it excels at working to resolve conflicts. And now let's take a moment and walk through some hypnosis facts. During a hypnosis session, the client and not the practitioner is in control. A very high percentage of people are hypnotizable. From a therapeutic perspective, hypnosis is a profound state of relaxation, focused mind, and heightened sensory awareness. The conscious mind never leaves the session. It simply takes a step back and defers to your inner mind, also known as your subconscious or unconscious mind. During hypnosis, the client focuses intently on the subject at hand with the purpose of resolving conflict, and they do this to the near exclusion of any other thought. Under hypnosis, you cannot be made to do anything you do not truly desire to do or anything which violates your moral or religious convictions. And all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, meaning that any time during the session, if the client desires not to be in hypnosis any longer and wants to emerge, all they need to do is open their eyes, which goes back to bullet number 1. During a session, the client is in control. Now let's take a moment and step through the different types of hypnosis. You'll see on the chart there are 3 categories: clinical hypnosis, transpersonal hypnosis, and spiritual hypnosis. With my practice, I incorporate all 3 approaches when I work with my clients. Now, starting with clinical hypnosis works within the boundaries of the client's perception of the immediate mind-body consciousness. It's often referred to as traditional hypnosis. The approach includes scripts, which will contain direct or indirect suggestions, release techniques such as Gestalt, inner child, regression, desensitizing, future pacing, aversion, parts therapy, and NLP techniques. Now, transpersonal hypnosis expands outside the immediate mind-body perceptions of the client and introduces expanded consciousness concepts into the process. An example of these types of concepts would be to have the client imagine bringing in healing light, or a higher self, or inner healers, or spiritual aspects, or higher parts, which is a higher level of awareness that resides within all of us. When integrating the transpersonal approach with the clinical approach, we are introducing a very powerful and very effective way to assist the client in resolving conflict. Now, the next category is spiritual hypnosis or spiritual regression. Spiritual hypnosis allows the client to connect directly with their spiritual or cosmic consciousness, thus allowing them to experience spiritual awareness, which includes connecting with guides, teachers, elders, the client's soul self, experiencing past lives and life between lives. My clients have described their spiritual hypnosis sessions as a beautiful spiritual experience which helps them to better understand and navigate their current life path. Now let's take a moment and understand how conflicts are created. On the left-hand side of the slide, you see a child is very frustrated, and to the right, we see that child as an adult, and he's still very much frustrated. Now, conflicts are created when situations, circumstances, or events take place, usually at an early or young age, that are real or imagined. And it's very important to understand that these situations, circumstances, or events can be imagined. The inner mind records the event, the emotional state, the behavior or reaction, and writes a file to the mind's hard drive. Going forward, these files are accessed by the conscious mind whenever a perceived similar event is encountered. The file that was used by the conscious mind results in pattern behavior or reactions. As we get older, these files can become outdated. When we encounter similar situations or circumstances, the stored behavior emerges. Many times, this results in unwanted or undesirable behavior or reactions as an adult, which the client does not understand. And the reason the client does not understand is because the old files are tucked away and hidden from the conscious mind. However, under hypnosis, these old hidden files can be retrieved and updated, which takes us to the next slide, how conflicts are resolved. Under regression, we can take the client back to what is referred to as the initial sensitizing event, or the ISE. The initial sensitizing event represents that point in time when those files were written to the client's hard drive. Once the client is back in that memory, the hypnotherapist utilizes what is referred to as release techniques to reframe the event by asking the inner mind to interpret the ISE, or the initial sensitizing event, through a more positive or transformative lens. Once the mind's files are updated, the mind will work to integrate and bring about the new behavior the client is seeking by resolving the conflict. Now let's take a moment and understand session approaches. There are 2 approaches that I've categorized. One is interactive and the other is direct suggestion only. You'll see a check mark next to interactive because this is the approach that I utilize with my clients. With the interactive approach, the client and practitioner engage in dialogue during the session. The dialogue revolves around what I refer to as exercises. These exercises could include active imagery, visualization, NLP, desensitizing, and so on. Also, sometimes during a session, an emotional release, or what we refer to as an abreaction, can occur. When a client has an emotional release or an abreaction, that means that we are at the root of the issue. This is a good thing. The interaction that I have with my clients enables me as the practitioner to assess inner mind acceptance or rejection of suggestions. What many hypnotherapists don't know is that the inner mind or the unconscious subconscious mind can reject suggestion. I then utilize anchoring techniques to solidify the positive change. And once we anchor the positive change, I then incorporate direct suggestion. Direct suggestion at the end of a session reinforces the desired change. This is referred to as post-hypnotic suggestion. Now, when I refer to direct suggestion types of approaches, this is typically script reading. And what that means is the session is command-driven. In other words, the hypnotist will say to the client, "You will not smoke, you will release weight," and so on. And because this is a command-driven type of approach, what happens is the hypnotherapist is receiving limited to no client feedback. And the downside to that, as I mentioned earlier, is that the inner mind or the subconscious, unconscious mind can reject suggestions and the practitioner is completely unaware. So over the years, my experience has shown me that this type of approach, direct suggestion only, is not nearly as effective as interactive hypnosis. Now, a question that comes up very often is, how does a client go into hypnosis? How does the hypnotherapist get them into a trance state? This is done by what we refer to as inductions. And there are 3 types of inductions that I've noted on this slide. The first one is progressive relaxation, and you can see again I have a check mark because this is the approach that I use. The next one is the validation approach, which is considered to be the classic approach. And the third one is the quick induction technique. Now, going back to the progressive relaxation, which I refer to as the interpersonal approach, it is essentially guided imagery with very calming and relaxing suggestions. It is the type of induction I've been using with my clients over the last 7 years with a very, very high level of success. The validation approach, again, the classic approach, this is where the hypnotist goes through a step-by-step process to induce trance and then confirm the trance depth by performing tests on the client. In other words, validating with the client that the client is indeed in a hypnotic state. Some of those tests might include the client not wanting to open their eyes or experiencing arm levitation or arm heaviness based upon suggestions given by the hypnotist, or not feeling an arm pinch. And these are all designed to prove to the client that they are indeed in hypnosis. So the downside with the validation approach is if the client does open their eyes or does not levitate their arm or their arm doesn't feel heavy or they feel the pinch, then the validation process breaks down. This induction approach is not always effective with many, many clients. Now moving to the quick induction technique, this is a technique that's used primarily with stage shows. It requires highly suggestible clients to be effective. The downside is that most clients are not highly suggestible. You will have those that are, but you're going to have many who are not, and everything in between. So this is not a technique that I recommend or use for my hypnosis practice. Now, many clients will ask how a typical session works. We first start with a pre-talk, which either takes place on the phone or in the office, and the practitioner and the client discuss goals and objectives. This helps to build rapport between the practitioner, myself, and my client, and it also helps me to begin the process of mapping out a tailored session specific to the client's needs. We then schedule the session, and the client comes in, and then we begin the session with an induction. And as I mentioned earlier, the induction that I use is the progressive relaxation. This includes guided imagery, having the client focus on their breathing, releasing and relaxing, and the environment itself plays a very important role in enabling the client to achieve that deep entranced state. So the office of the hypnotherapist should have a very comfortable chair like a recliner, along with comfortable levels of lighting, relaxed ambient music, etc. The combination of the guided imagery induction and the proper environment will help enable the client to relax into the proper level of hypnosis to start the work of fostering positive change. The main segment of the session will include release techniques to help the client to become aware of, understand, and resolve conflict. The types of techniques that can be utilized during a session could include regression, parts therapy, and direct or indirect suggestion. The client is then slowly brought out of hypnosis. This is known as emerging the client, and it's important once your client is out of hypnosis that you give them time to reacclimate and to ground before you have them leave the office. Once your client is back to their full waking state, this may be the appropriate time to schedule a follow-up session. The number of sessions varies from client to client. Sometimes multiple sessions may be required to achieve the client's desired objectives. I always take the time to explain to my clients that one session usually won't resolve years of habituated patterns of behavior because one size does not fit all. The next question the client will ask you is, well, what happens next? And I explain to my clients that all they need to do is go about their business and do not overthink. Shifts and changes can be immediate, as an example with smoking, but most of the time for many issues, the change is progressive. And to wrap the presentation up, I will share my response to a question that just about every client asks me when they inquire about hypnosis. And that question, of course, is, will hypnosis work for me? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I do take the time to explain to my clients that a key success factor is the client's personal commitment to change, and that hypnosis is not a silver bullet, it is a process. So their commitment to that process is very important. I also explained that to expect one session to shift years of behavioral patterns is the exception to the rule and not the rule, and that periodic tune-up or reinforcement sessions will significantly increase the probability of long-lasting results. In other words, look to make hypnosis a part of your wellness routine. It's also important to note with your clients that the rate and pace of change is client-specific because hypnosis is not a one-size-fits-all. The underlying dynamics of any issue can and will be very different from client to client. The bottom line is, if you stay committed, the positive change you desire will happen. And that concludes my presentation on hypnosis and you, and I hope you found the content interesting and informative. Please visit my website at imaginehypnotics.com for more information on my programs. If you have any additional questions regarding hypnosis that I can help you with, or if you would like to schedule an appointment, please feel free to contact me at imaginehypnotics@aol.com or call my office at 919-745-1225. Thank you again for listening and have a great day.